with David Muir.
Good evening. We begin tonight here with several breaking headlines. What President Trump said late today about Iran. Is the U.S. preparing to take military action? What he said in a moment. Also tonight, just moments ago, former President Bill Clinton finishing more than 6 hours of questioning about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Testifying behind closed doors before the House Oversight Committee, the former president telling the committee, quote, "I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong." Lawmakers tonight saying he answered every question, never taking the fifth. Tonight, President Trump, when asked about Bill Clinton, testifying today saying, "I like him. I don't like seeing him deposed." Rachel Scott leading us off from Chappaqua, New York tonight.
Tonight, former President Bill Clinton becoming the first president in American history forced to testify before Congress. Grilled for several hours by the Republican-led House Oversight Committee about his relationship with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I think the American people have a lot of questions.
In his opening statement, the former president declaring, "I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong," insisting I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing, adding, "Even with 20/20 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me pause." Clinton has not been accused of any wrongdoing. He did have a friendly relationship with Epstein. The Justice Department's Epstein files show him posing with young women. He's pictured here in a pool alongside Epstein's accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, and then here in a jacuzzi with an unidentified woman. Sources tell us the former president told lawmakers he did not know who that woman was, and when asked if he had sex with her, he testified he did not. His testimony comes after his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, spent nearly 7 hours with the committee.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein.
Bill Clinton today saying bringing his wife in to testify was simply not right. Democrats today saying since Republicans subpoenaed Hillary Clinton, they should also speak to the current First Lady Melania Trump, since she actually did know Epstein. But first and foremost, they want to hear from President Trump, who had a long friendship with Epstein.
Republicans have now set a new precedent, which is to bring in presidents and former presidents to testify. We are now asking and demanding that President Trump officially come in and testify in front of the Oversight Committee.
Republicans refused to call the president in.
Ranking Member Garcia asked President Clinton, quote, should President Trump be called to answer questions from this committee? And President Clinton said, that's for you to decide. And the president went on to say that the president, Trump, has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved, and he meant with Epstein. So I know there's a lot of curiosity about President Trump. I thought that was an interesting thing that President Clinton said.
President Trump, who has directed the Justice Department to investigate Bill Clinton's Epstein ties, today said this.
Look, I like him, and I don't like seeing him deposed.
Democrats have a different take about what former President Bill Clinton had to say about President Trump, but soon the American people will be able to see it all for themselves. The committee is now working to make the video of these depositions as well as the transcripts available as quickly as possible, David.
Rachel Scott from Chappaqua again tonight. Thank you. There are also breaking developments in the U.S. and Iran negotiations. Is the U.S. now preparing to take military action against Iran? What President Trump said a short time ago amid these negotiations and what he says Iran refuses to agree to with a massive U.S. military buildup tonight across the region. Here's our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, now with late reporting for us.
Tonight, President Trump making it clear crucial talks with Iran aren't going well.
We're not happy with the negotiation. They just don't want to. They don't want to say the key words. We're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They have to say we're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they just can't quite get there.
But Iran's repeatedly said it doesn't want a nuclear weapon. Also at issue, nuclear enrichment, which Iran claims they want for civilian purposes. Late today, President Trump ruling it out.
I say no enrichment. Not 20%, 30%. They always want 20%, 30%. They want it for civilian, for civil. I think it's uncivil. So I'm not happy with it now.
The president saying no final decision's been made on military action, but all the pieces are in place for a strike. New satellite images show the massive military buildup in the region. Nearly a dozen F-22 fighter jets at a base in southern Israel. Rows of refueling and reconnaissance aircraft in Saudi Arabia. And 2 aircraft carrier strike groups now moving into position. It comes after a 12-day war between Israel and Iran last June, the US joining, bombing Iran's nuclear sites. President Trump repeatedly saying those facilities were obliterated. Critics questioning if that's the case, why Trump, who vowed not to drag America into foreign wars, may soon strike Iran again. David, the president admitting he has a very big decision to make, saying he'd rather do it the peaceful way, but that any deal must be meaningful. David.
Ian Pannell back with us tonight. Ian, thank you. Also involving the Pentagon tonight, a remarkable showdown between the Pentagon and artificial intelligence giant Anthropic, the company refusing to give the Pentagon unrestricted access to its AI technology. The company says it's concerned about the potential of fully autonomous weapons without human involvement. Late today, President Trump now banning Anthropic from all federal agencies. Here's Martha Raddatz.
Tonight, an extraordinary showdown between the Pentagon and tech giant Anthropic over their artificial intelligence currently used by the Pentagon. At issue, Anthropic wants to prevent the Pentagon from having unfettered access to their most advanced AI, the company concerned about the possibility of fully autonomous weapons, where AI makes the final decisions on when to fire and when to kill without humans in control. The company also saying it does not want its technology to be used for mass surveillance of American citizens. Tonight, with the showdown at an impasse, President Trump now ordering all federal agencies to immediately stop using Anthropic's technology, saying the U.S. will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. And moments ago, Secretary Pete Hegseth moving to designate Anthropic a supply chain risk, essentially blacklisting the American company from government work. Hegseth saying America's warfighters will never be held hostage by the ideological whims of big tech. This decision is final. Anthropic is the first AI company to use classified networks and is considered the most sophisticated, which will make it hard to replace. And the CEO of OpenAI, Anthropic's competitor, said earlier that his company and some others share the same red lines as Anthropic. David?
Sharing the same concerns. All right, Martha Raddatz, who will continue to follow this. Martha, thank you. We turn now to the Nancy Guthrie disappearance and to the video from doorbell cameras, the vehicles in those early morning hours. One car seen on a ring cam within minutes of Guthrie's disappearance. Authorities tonight say it's this kind of video they still need, with Savannah Guthrie posting tonight about the family's $1 million reward and the ability to stay anonymous. Here's Trevor Ault.
Nearly 1 month after Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her home, tonight Savannah Guthrie is renewing her plea for the critical tip that could lead to her mother, posting, "Please be the one that brings her home."
We need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
Savannah telling any potential tipster they can stay anonymous and still get her family's $1 million reward.
You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
Investigators are still hoping someone can identify the masked man with a gun at Nancy Guthrie's doorstep the night she was taken. If your tip qualifies for the reward, you can be paid in cash. When you make a tip, they provide a PIN number you'd present when picking up the money at a neutral location. No ID required, and it's not traceable with no questions asked.
Pima County Sheriff's Department.
Tonight, the Sheriff's Department is looking into videos like this one from Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood, a ring video obtained by Fox News showing a car 2.5 miles from the home at 2:36 a.m., around the time Nancy was taken. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker disconnected from her phone 8 minutes earlier at 2:28 a.m. That car is one of 12 captured on that camera between midnight and 6 a.m. Police have not said it has any connection to the abduction, but it's the kind of video investigators are asking residents to send them as they work through thousands of hours of footage.
And David, the sheriff's office stresses this is an ongoing investigation. They also say they will continue to keep a patrol in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood.
David, Trevor Ault on this case again tonight. Trevor, thank you. We turn now to the father whose son is accused of killing 2 teachers and 2 students in Georgia. The father taking the stand in his own defense today, accused of buying his son the gun even when there were warnings. What the father said about that, tearful on the stand. Here's Steve Osunsami.
The father of the teenager accused of killing 2 students and 2 teachers at the suburban Atlanta high school is tearfully defending himself on the witness stand, saying he didn't see warning signs that his son could kill.
You know, he's a good kid. I don't know if anybody could ever see that kind of evil.
But prosecutors say that Colin Gray ignored too much, charging him with second-degree murder, saying that he bought his son this AR-15 style rifle used in the killings at Appalachia High School as a Christmas present, about 7 months after getting a visit from the sheriff's office saying that the FBI had flagged his son for allegedly threatening online to shoot up a different school. The father admitted to jurors that he kept guns in the home unlocked, even after conversations with his son about panic attacks and depression.
The gun was a thing that him and I used to bond with, and I was very clear on the rules.
His son is now 16 years old. He's in custody tonight, and he's waiting on his trial. He's pleading not guilty to murder and other charges. His father is pleading not guilty to second-degree murder, and his prosecution is part of a larger effort to hold parents responsible for these school shootings across the country. David.
Steve Osunsami reporting from Georgia tonight. Steve, thanks. Tonight to Texas now, where the U.S. military mistakenly shot down a Customs and Border Protection drone right near the border using a high-powered laser. The confusion between agencies leading to potential danger in the skies, and tonight the FAA has now restricted some of that airspace for months. Here's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, the FAA now restricting airspace near El Paso, Texas through June after yet another confusing and dangerous moment in the skies. The U.S. military using a high-powered laser to shoot down a drone they thought was a threat near the U.S.-Mexico border. But it was a drone being used by Customs and Border Protection, another U.S. agency. The incident troubling, as those lasers could pose a threat to commercial aviation without coordination between agencies. In a statement, the Pentagon and other agencies saying the laser was used to mitigate a seemingly threatening unmanned aerial system operating within military airspace.
For the Department of Defense to shoot down a Customs and Border Protection drone would demonstrate a shocking breakdown in air domain awareness.
It's the second time this month airspace in the area has been restricted after the laser technology was deployed. Just 2 weeks ago, the FAA issued an urgent temporary closure after CBP used it to shoot down what they believed was a threatening drone, but turned out to be a Mylar balloon, both of which are often used by Mexican cartels.
If the military and civilian law enforcement are going to continue operating together along the southern border, there needs to be dramatic improvements in coordination.
And David, the Pentagon and CBP insist they will work to increase communication to prevent incidents like this in the future. David.
Whit Johnson with us here tonight. Whit, thank you. When we come back, remembering a famous singer who famously declared breaking up is hard to do. Also, more news ahead tonight, the horrific images, the deadly tram derailment at rush hour, that tram jumping the tracks, slamming into a building. We'll have more on this in a moment. Also, the worker trapped in the mud, the hours-long rescue, and how they were able to finally get him out. And you want to stay tuned for this tonight. We heard from so many of you at home after our story on Punch the Monkey, abandoned by his mother, shunned by the other monkeys. You will definitely want to see what they have sent to us tonight. Tonight, a tram going off the tracks, crashing into a building, killing 2 people in Milan, Italy. A driver capturing this video right here, the train swerving suddenly, jumping the tracks right there. A passenger and a pedestrian were killed. Nearly 40 others injured. That crash under investigation tonight. Back in the U.S., in Florida, a race to rescue a man stuck in a mud pit. Firefighters found Andrew Giddens shoulder deep in the mud. This is near a sand plant outside Gainesville. He'd been reported missing and was stuck for several days before he was found. Rescuers using ropes, ladders, shovels to free him. Giddens is in critical condition, but he is expected to recover. An incredible effort. When we come back here tonight, you'll see the scare on the field for Lionel Messi, who was tackled. And we remember a famous singer tonight who said, breaking up is hard to do. To the index of other news tonight, more winter weather for the Midwest and the Northeast this weekend. Several states bracing for snow. On Saturday, a quick blast on the move from the plains there to the Midwest, up to 4 inches of snow in some areas. And then they tell us on Sunday, light snow pushing through from Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. Forecast models so far predicting less than 2 inches. We do have a passing to note tonight. Legendary singer-songwriter Neil Sedaka has died.
You know that breaking up is hard to do.
Sedaka, of course, famous for Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Oh Carol, and Love Will Keep Us Together. His work earning him 5 Grammy nominations. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Sedaka was 86. Soccer star Lionel Messi was tackled as fans stormed the field in Puerto Rico. 3 people running across the field, one man wrapping his arms around Messi, pulling him to the ground. Security guards there rushing in, Messi getting up very quickly. He was unhurt. When we come back on this Friday night, we heard from so many of you at home about Punch the Monkey this week, so you have to stay tuned here. The new video they have just sent to us. Finally tonight here, our Persons of the Week. We had to choose the team helping punch the monkey. Tonight, the monkey the world is now cheering on, the viral star Punch the Monkey. We reported on him this week here, and so many of you responded. The 7-month-old monkey abandoned by his mother, shunned by other monkeys at the zoo outside Tokyo. Zookeepers giving the lonely monkey a stuffed orangutan from IKEA in hopes of comforting him and to help him build his confidence. The images of Punch then cuddling and dragging that stuffed animal everywhere, going viral. This week, the zoo so encouraged by his progress, Punch going from clinging onto his care team during mealtime to this. The promising signs of bonding as fellow primates grooming him. Sitting with the adult monkeys side by side on the rocks. And tonight here, the new images of Punch. There he is on the left, embracing, hugging an adult monkey before standing up, climbing onto its back, and hitching a ride. And tonight here, Punch's zookeeper saying he's been spending less time with the stuffed animal and more time interacting with the other monkeys, saying he's blending into the troop little by little, and they think there will come a day when he no longer needs his stuffed toy. Tonight, his care team rooting him on, and so are we. And so we choose the team at the Ichikawa City Zoo and Punch the Monkey. Good night.
David Muir, the most trusted anchor in America, the most